right now from Breitbart News. Mr. John Nolte is with us. John, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Good to speak to you.
Thanks very much for coming on the show. And I got to say, you were doing excellent work yesterday at Breitbart. I was following the live blog of the media coverage of the shootings of the Navy Yard, and it was, John. I mean, let's just call it what it was. It was another bad day for the media.
It was, and they all seemed to have their chance at bad. CBS and NBC both misidentified the shooter by name. They gave out some poor guy's name publicly. And they all jumped to the conclusion that an AR-15 was involved in some way. Either the shooter had brought it with him or had taken it off a dead security guard. Both the Daily News and CNN, in the form of Piers Morgan, ran with that to make to craft a gun control narrative out of it. It looked to me like they were going to do, like they wanted to turn the AR-15 into the NRA of this tragedy, the boogeyman of this tragedy, to go after it. And then we find out this morning that an AR-15 was in no way involved with the shootings. So it's another debacle, and it's a debacle created from a media that puts its agenda ahead of everything else, and they just refuse to wait for the facts.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the prime offenders, including Piers Morgan. Cameron, do we have that clip of Piers Morgan last night? All right, it'll be 1 second here, but we've got a clip from Piers Morgan's program, which, as you say, John, now that the news is that a semi-automatic rifle was not used, all of a sudden Piers Morgan's whole narrative is sort of falling apart. But this was Piers Morgan last night.
Anyone with more information on Alexis is urged to call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Law enforcement says he was armed with an AR-15, another rifle, and a semi-automatic Glock. They believe he used the AR-15 for most, if not all, of the shooting. That gun was legally purchased. It's actually a place that is very heavily guarded by people who have guns. This man appears to have got inside with his own identity. He had clearance to do so. But he was carrying an AR-15 assault rifle, another rifle, and a handgun. Would somebody carrying weapons in the way that he was immediately ring alarm bells inside the base?
I got to thank Newsbusters for capturing that. At one point, they actually had the graphic up calling the AR-15 shotgun.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I mean, that's a minor problem for the media to not get that correct. But John, there's no desire to get it correct. There's no desire to get it right. There's the desire, as you say, to push that agenda out there.
Yeah, I mean, that is what Piers Morgan did last night, especially you listen to those clips. He is not saying apparently. He's not saying reportedly. He's reporting what he doesn't know to be a fact as fact. And these are the same people that lecture new media about getting it right. You know, they get on their high horse. What Piers Morgan did last night should be a career ender. I mean, they have to retract. If CNN had any sense of responsibility, they would retract that entire hour.
To that end, should the guy who wrote the headline, came up with the cover of the New York Daily News, should he be fired too?
He should, yeah. He should be fired. The editor that created what the New York Daily News was, they crafted an entire paper around the headline. I think there were 3 stories about the evil AR-15, and they need to retract that, and that should be a career ender. I mean, that is not a mistake that you make because a source gave you bad information. That's not a mistake that you make with good intentions. It's a mistake that is made when you know that the facts are not complete yet, but you make the mistake because you're worried that the facts won't be as good as what you want them to be. It's an unforgivable mistake, and yeah, CNN needs to do a retraction of the hour, and they need to get rid of Piers Morgan. The guy's a disaster. He creates a lot of publicity, but it doesn't turn into ratings. I don't know why they hang on to him.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know either, John. I sort of go like hot and cold as to what my response would be if Piers Morgan ever said, "Cam, I want you to come on the program." I generally think my answer would be no, because it's not productive. I don't see any, it's not like Piers Morgan is interested in having a genuine conversation. He's interested in trying to have a couple of human punching bags up there for him. And by the way, he gets beaten a lot by his guests, so he just has to try to prevent them from talking. But I don't see it. Again, what is the point of that program, John, other than if Piers Morgan didn't have his own TV show, he'd just be another troll on the internet.
Yeah, that's exactly. And it's not like the guy doesn't have some talent. It's not like he's not a good personality for TV. He's a tabloid guy, and he's on the middle of a primetime lineup on a network that is trying to be taken seriously now that it's been taken, now that it has new management. And he's train wreck after train wreck after train wreck. And I don't know, and they're not getting anything out of it. I mean, he just makes mistakes, and he gets very low ratings. His ratings are some of the worst in their primetime lineup. So I have no idea. He must have a good contract or a good agent.
I guess so, or pictures of someone there. I don't know. Listen, how do you see this? How do you see this playing out, John? Given that the narrative that the media was creating yesterday has sort of fallen apart
completely.
And again, I realize I come at this from a biased perspective, but background checks would not have prevented this. One gun a month would not have prevented this. I mean, point to me the gun law that would have prevented yesterday's attack. And
which is just like Sandy Hook. I mean, the huge mistake everybody made, the anti-gun people made with Sandy Hook, was not proposing a law that would have stopped Sandy Hook. And it's the same thing here. There is no law. I mean, the shooter got background checks, passed 2 of them. The shooter did basically what Joe Biden said to do, use a shotgun. So they have no place to go with this. So I honestly don't know what they're going to do. Right now, they're already writing pieces lamenting the fact that gun control isn't going to go anywhere with this story. Mm-hmm. So I think the whole thing's dead. I think it was a non-starter to begin with. The AR-15 was a pretty smart narrative for them to come up with, but the facts just didn't back it up. But that would have probably been a fairly effective narrative.
But, the fact of the matter is, and as Piers Morgan, it's interesting now. Piers Morgan says, "Well, look, it's not as if the victims, the type of a gun would really matter to the victims anyway." I got to tell you, gun owners have been saying that for a long time. That it's not "quote unquote" gun violence that we need to be talking about. It's not going after semi-automatic rifles, which are rarely used in crime. It's about going after the individuals.
Yeah, and he made it actually without knowing it. He's trying to clean up his own mess with that tweet. But he made a pro-gun point right there, that it doesn't matter what the gun is. The problem is the individual. The problem is the person behind the gun. And everybody mocks the idea of, guns don't kill people. People kill people, but that is a fact. And you can't – but, Morgan has no intellectual consistency. He's just about creating smoke without any heat. And he's hoping to get his ratings up. And I don't know. I'd like to think that this time – he went so far over the line that someone's going to try and pull him back a little bit, because CNN needs to get rid of the guy.
It's interesting. I remember when who's running CNN now? Jeff Zucker. When he came on, there was a story that came out that apparently they had a big meeting there in the CNN offices, and someone had asked, are you going to rein in Piers Morgan? And he said, I think there's a time and a place for advocacy. He said, I think when it comes to gun control, Piers is he's doing the right thing. So I don't know if Jeff Zucker will say, Piers, you've gone too far. Piers, you got to remember, this is CNN. We are a news agency. We are a news organization. I don't know if that happens, or if they say, Piers, just keep stunting, keep trying to get those ratings.
Piers might be like their id. He might be the guy. He's like MSNBC to NBC. MSNBC does stuff NBC can't, but NBC's glad that they're there, even though they act embarrassed. So they can kind of say, well, we're just letting Piers be Piers, and it's a way so they have somebody out there, sort of a stalking horse, to get their message out, to get their left-wing agenda out there, and then the rest of them can pretend that they're unbiased journalists. So that might be part of the ploy too. Yeah,
I think you may be right. Listen, John, appreciate you coming on the program. By the way, Fox just announced Megyn Kelly at 9 p.m.
Yeah, Fox. I got to tell you, Fox handled this perfectly. I mean, they did such a great job of moving everyone around. They hung on to Greta. They hung on to to Sean. They got Megan up there, who's going to be a big star in prime time. They moved Shepard Smith to 1 hour instead of 2. They really handled this well. The media obviously was hoping for a debacle and for someone to get hurt, but it just didn't happen. So kudos to them. They just have a much better primetime lineup than they did before.
The only complaint I have is that don't they have Adam Carolla under contract now?
I don't know if he's under contract.
I thought he was
He's
like
on
a Fox
quite
News
bit.
contributor. He needs.
Oh, is he?
I
Nice.
think so. Yeah, I thought he was an official contributor. He needs his own show.
Yeah. I wish they would move Gutfeld to 11.
Wouldn't that be now? See, John, let's just go barge into Fox and demand a programming.
Wake them up. You know, he could come on right after Sean Hannity. But you know, he's a big success where he is now. So.
Well, that's true. But imagine if you had Red Eye at 11 and then Carolla at 12. You could compete against Fallon and Kimmel and
Jon Stewart. Those guys. That would be fantastic. Yeah, we've been championing that for a long time at Breitbart.
There you go. Well, listen, John, appreciate you coming on the program, sir. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to doing this again soon.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime. Thank you.
John Nolte with Breitbart News.